often don't notice. The way it really works is that when something happens, we perceive or think about it in a certain way, and it's these thoughts that lead to the emotional reaction.
While we can't change the event, we can change the thoughts that lead up to the emotion. So the key to managing emotions lies in our ability to manage our thoughts.
We're now looking at some strategies that will help you manage your thoughts. Try to catch unhelpful thoughts as soon as they happen. Develop some coping statements and learn how to challenge unhelpful thoughts.
Let's look at the kind of thoughts you could be thinking when you're feeling unpleasant emotions. They could include negative self-talk or automatic thoughts. Negative self-talk refers to negative thoughts about ourselves.
Sometimes I can remember feeling overwhelmed, thinking, I just can't cope with this, I can't get through this.
Oh, stuffed up again. I can't do anything right.
It's going to be a disaster. It always ends in a mess. I really can't handle it.
And automatic thoughts are thoughts or visual images that just seem to pop into our heads almost like a reflex.
Oh, no, I'm running late. Just another thing she's going to blame me for.
He's going to be really angry at me. We'll have another fight again. Maybe I should just stay in the car.
We tend to assume that our thoughts are based on facts and they seem completely realistic. But they may be ridiculous when we think about them later.
The first important step in dealing with these unhelpful thoughts is identifying or catching them as soon as they happen.
What I try to do is write down my feelings and try to remember what thoughts I had that made me actually feel that way.
Whenever I notice I'm upset, I ask myself what was going through your mind that's led to that feeling.
Once you catch unhelpful thoughts, you can replace them by more helpful coping statements. Coping statements help you relax, and you may find it easier to cope with stress by thinking of helpful things to say to yourself.
I like saying to myself, this too shall pass and everything will be okay.
Okay, I'm just a little bit late. Stay calm. These things happen.
Here are some more examples of coping statements that other parents find useful.
I'm feeling nervous and that's natural, but I can cope with this feeling.
It's okay to make mistakes.
Just breathe deeply and relax.
Remember, it will be over soon.
It's important to have your own coping statements that you believe and that you can use whenever you feel stressed. You can use these to help develop a coping plan. Think of a stressful situation, maybe something recent when you found it difficult to stay calm. Working out a plan for this situation will help you deal with similar problems in the future.
Write down what you could do or think to prepare yourself beforehand, and what you could do to stay calm during the situation. And think about how you'll congratulate yourself when it's over. As well as your personal coping statements, your coping plan could include relaxation and positive parenting strategies. Keep your coping plan handy so you can refer to it when it's needed.
Another way of dealing with unhelpful thoughts is to challenge them. When you catch an unhelpful thought, you can evaluate it until you reach a more realistic or helpful way of thinking about the same situation.
Here are some ideas about questions you can ask yourself to challenge unhelpful thoughts.
What might happen if I change my thinking?
Sometimes I ask myself, what's the worst that can happen? Is that really going to be what happens?
So what's the best that could happen? And I guess what's the most realistic outcome?
What would I tell my friends if they were in the same situation?
Is what I'm thinking really true, or is there another explanation?
Managing emotions is much easier when you're taking care of yourself and have a regular routine for both you and your child. When we're experiencing life changes or stress in general, we can sometimes forget the importance of looking after ourselves and our family by keeping healthy and happy.
Routine is important to make everyone have a sense that life is stable and predictable.
Okay, so if it's a red day or a green day, anywhere on this calendar, you're with Dad.
When you go through separation, you may need to make some changes to your routine so it reflects your life as a single-parent family.
If it's my 4 days with the girls, we'll go out, we'll socialise with other families, with children. If it's not my 4 days with the girls, then I'll socialise with adults and do more grown-up things.
Changes in living circumstances, income and expenses that come with divorce can cause a lot of stress.
I've got a bit of trouble budgeting and there's never enough money to cover all the bills.
We had to learn to be a lot more responsible about the choices we made with our money.
Getting control of money and, you know, working out how things were going to be allocated to different expenses gave me a sense of control.
In addition to being good for your body, regular exercise can also improve your mood, reduce levels of anxiety and help you sleep better.
For exercise, I really enjoy doing my yoga and also spending some time upstairs on the treadmill.
I joined my gym and I found that terrific because I had a lot of company and a lot of people helping me.
I like taking the dog out for a walk down the dog park.
I usually go to the gym 2 to 3 times a week. I walk and I also ride a bike.
Mostert and I get on our push bikes and we go for rides.
A healthy, balanced diet will help give you the energy you need to lead an active life.
Alcohol in moderation is fine, but if you find you need alcohol, medications or other substances to relax or cope, try to replace them with some of your new coping strategies.
Your sleep may be disrupted in times of high stress, anxiety and depression. Developing a sleep routine will help your body readjust to normal sleeping patterns. Keep spending time with people you like. This can be difficult to start with because your divorce can affect your relationships with friends and family.
When my friends got divorced, it was really tough. I didn't know what to do because I was really close to both of them.
Mutual friends, from my experience, tend to go into one camp or the other. Very difficult for them to maintain an equal friendship with both parties.
They may feel divided loyalties and not know how to help. This can leave you feeling isolated. Talk to them about whether you're comfortable attending social events that may involve your co-parent. Make sure you let them know how they can help.
They started out being her friends, but they're my friends too, so I just rang them up and asked them over.
I told my friends that it's okay to invite my daughter and I as long as my ex is not there.
That's it.
Finally, try to find opportunities to laugh every day with your children, family, friends or work colleagues. Laughter is a great way to release tension. In this section, we looked at how emotions work, strategies for managing unhelpful thoughts, and taking care of yourself.
The most conflict is when I'll make a decision and I don't tell her about it, or when she'll make a decision and she doesn't tell me about it.
Because we have shared custody and a lack of communication, it means that neither of us are aware of who's paid what for the other parent as far as the children are concerned.
We have a lot of cultural difference and that created a lot of conflict between us.
I think different views about children's behaviour and the way they should be brought up, and also money matters as well, financial matters.
I'll be expecting them to arrive and I'll make suitable arrangements for dinner and so on, and then get told at the last minute that one of them or both of them or perhaps all three of them are not coming.
I guess it's the amount of time he wants to spend with the kids because he only gets 4 days a fortnight.
We set up times for meetings and she's always late, and sometimes she doesn't even turn up. She's so unreliable.
He could do a heck of a lot more than what he's doing right now. I'm left with everything and it's really wearing me down. You know, he's a parent too and he has to do his fair share.
I think I'm being asked to pay for a lot of stuff unfairly sometimes because I'm giving everything I can.
Some of the common areas of conflict include parenting arrangements, relationship issues, finances, legal matters, and cultural differences, practices or expectations. When conflict continues after divorce, children can have serious problems adjusting to the change and keeping up secure and loving relationships with both parents. Conflict between parents is the single biggest cause of problems for children following divorce.
You'll have a better chance of an effective co-parenting relationship if you understand how you communicate with your co-parent. You also need to learn strategies to help you get what you need while also respecting the needs and opinions of others. First, we need to look at two different types of conflict: underlying conflict and expressed conflict.
Underlying conflict often relates to the marriage breakdown, things that happened in the marriage, or feelings about the former partner.
Every time I take the kids to him for handover, I can't help but think about the things that he's done.
I got really ripped off in the settlement, so every time she mentions money now, I just get mad as hell.
I don't know why, but sometimes everything about him just drives me nuts.
After everything that's happened, I just can't trust her anymore. I'm always suspicious.
If we don't deal with it, underlying conflict can result in negative feelings that don't relate to the current situation. Expressed conflict is conflict that's communicated between parents. It could be expressed verbally or more subtly through behaviour such as not ensuring a child has enough clean clothes when they're going to stay with the other parent.
We've got school holidays coming up and Austin's coming up to stay. And I said, can you put a couple extra clothes in his overnight bag? And she said, no, you go out and buy his own clothes.
It will be like 5 minutes to the time that I'm supposed to pick up Isabella. I'm there. He won't hand her over until it's actually 5 minutes done, like right on time.
So I said to him, it might be that way in his family, but I'm not going to force that on my children in my home.
Yeah, Karen, it's Greg. What's going on? This is the third time you forgot to put his togs in. Well, it sounds to me like you don't want him to have a good time when he's with me.
When conflict arises, there are 4 common responses: avoidance, accommodation, competition, and collaboration.
Parents who avoid conflict pretend it doesn't exist and they don't deal with it effectively. Sometimes parents use the legal system as a way of avoiding interacting with the co-parent and leave the decision-making to lawyers and the courts.
Usually it's easier not to have a conversation. I just don't want to talk to him. I just drop the children off, wave them goodbye and leave.
Sometimes she'll send messages through the kids, which is extremely frustrating, rather than talking to me directly about them.
I don't really like talking to her, so if it's important enough, I get my lawyer to send a letter to hers.
Accommodation is cooperative but unassertive, as the parent doesn't stand up for their own needs or the needs of their child. They can give in to the demands of the other parent even when they disagree with them.
Yeah, okay. So you've booked him in for these music lessons 3 times a week?
That's not a problem for you, is it? I've paid for it already.
Yeah, okay. Well, so I'll just have to go along with that, I suppose.
Usually one of us just steps down completely.
Generally speaking, when there's a conflict over an issue or a disagreement, I'm the one who tends to back away and back down.
Parents who are competitive usually adopt an adversarial approach and try to get their own way at all costs.
Fine. If you don't want to do it my way, I'll just take you to court. And I'll win.
He took the kids to SeaWorld last week. Now I have to find something just as exciting.
Competitive parents focus on trying to outdo each other rather than on the best interests of their children. They frequently resort to the use of courts to try to get their own way. A competitive approach is assertive but uncooperative because it ignores the co-parent's perspective.
All right, well, if I come pick him up Friday afternoon so we can go to the movies, then you'll come back on Saturday so you can take him to your mum's? Round 2? Yeah, okay. Yeah, that'll be fine.
Parents who collaborate are flexible to meet the needs of both parents and their children. They're assertive about making sure their ideas and opinions are discussed while still acknowledging the other parent's perspective. they can manage their own emotions to act in the best interests of their children.
How parents respond to conflict will determine whether they escalate the conflict, manage their differences, or resolve the issues.
Conflict escalates when parents remain highly emotional, reactive to previous hurts, and entrenched in their positions.
I know what
So you're
happens.
saying it's my fault?
Yes, it is.
How
because,
could it be?
Because when she goes to your place, she stays up all night and watches television and doesn't study. I know that she comes home tired and she says, no, it is
Escalation is highly damaging to children and very difficult for parents to get out of because the original issues are lost and the conflict takes on a life of its own.
How dare you?
Parents who manage conflict can have a degree of control and prevent escalation using strategies such as avoiding or accommodating. This is likely to keep things going as they are at the time, but the conflict may be provoked later by another issue.
Parents who resolve conflict are most likely to be those who collaborate to find flexible solutions, and they continue to have a healthy co-parenting relationship.
Communicating assertively is important to develop and maintain healthy relationships. It allows co-parents to discuss issues relating to their children on an ongoing basis and to deal with differences.
I used to give in to things all the time just to keep things calm, but that left me feeling ripped off. Now that I raise my point of view as well, I'm really surprised that we're actually able to compromise on all those things.
I used to be someone who just jumped in all the time and was very demanding, but now I sit back and I listen a lot more, and we try and work out something more suitable.
Assertive communication helps you to stay calm and focused, even if your co-parent is angry, upset, or worse, abusive. When you communicate with difficult people or about highly emotional topics, it helps to have a plan to avoid conflict and to manage the escalation of conflict if it does happen.
Let's look at some guidelines for having a meeting with your co-parent. To start with, choose a time and place that's convenient for both of you. If possible, do it when the children are not around.
Trying to plan ahead, think ahead about what we need to talk about. Try and keep focused on what's in the best interests of the children.
We used to rush and try and fit everything in a very short amount of time, and it didn't work. So now it's much better when we plan some time and sit down so we can actually get through everything that needs to be discussed.
When we have these meetings, if there are likely to be a topic that might cause some anxiety, we make sure we have these conversations away from the kids.
Decide the details of the meeting. For example, where it will be. Will it be face-to-face, via letter, internet, or telephone? If conversations usually end up with hostility, consider having your meeting in a public place. Set an agenda to cover what you're going to talk about so it's easier to focus on the issues. Be clear about the results you want and the compromises you would accept.
During the meeting itself, don't let the discussion or current issue be overshadowed by emotions and arguments from the past. If your co-parent does this, gently bring them back to the current topic.
In other